Mike Golic Jr., FanDuel, joins us on 365 Sports. Thoughts about, and I love the early September non-conference games. I mean, that's what to me is always the best part about college football, other than the long-time tradition-rich rivalries.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. And, Notre Dame, Miami, week 1 of the season, before that Texas A&M game, like Carson Beck, what Mario Cristobal is trying to build down there with a meat shield of an offensive line and some great recruits. But I think, to your point, the larger purpose it always serves to me is college football is a sport where I understand the Big Ten's trying to make this argument through the ninth conference game, but college football's always had a difficulty with uneven scheduling because the conferences are very different and we don't get a ton of crossover. And so what little we do is a massive measuring stick that the committee and all of us who are sitting around in barbershops or on these shows having these conversations use to kind of measure one conference against another. Now, I think I talked to my dad earlier, and I think he made a great point. I think the ones of these that we get in like week 3, that's the real sweet spot. Because week 1, you're coming fresh out of camp. There's no preseason in college football like the NFL. And so you're going to get a little bit uglier product, especially in the portal age where you're trying to infuse important parts of your team in a short amount of time. But I still think it's great for fans. It is great for the sport. And it's a great measuring stick. A lot of these coaches love it because it is a challenge to your team that raises the level of practice, raises the intensity. I know everyone wants to believe every week's looked at as the same. And for the best teams, they're closer to that than most. But we're all human beings. And when you're 18 to 22 and you see one of those helmets across coming up on the scouting report or on the opposing field when you're in stretching lines, it does hit a little bit different and raise everyone's intensity early in the season.
If I made you commissioner of college, well, let's not say commissioner, Lord of college football right now, what playoff are you pushing on the fans and all this? Because the one thing I think out of all of this is that they haven't asked like one single fan, like, what do you like? Like, what would you watch and go to?
Yeah, what a novel concept, asking fans or players, the people that actually make up the bulk of the product and support it, what they might want in all this. Now, I'm sure their answer would be, hey, well, we're going off what ratings say and what people want from that. But really, that's about money for them. I think if I was the Lord of college football, I'd probably stay at 12 right now. Like, I think where we're at currently, I would keep it where, you've got the 5 highest ranked conference champions that are going to get that automatic bid in. I think the natural seeding's the right move to have it 1 through 4 being the top 1 through 4 seeds that are getting the bye, because I don't know about you guys. The conversation about, well, is the bye damaging to the teams that got it, or is there's rest versus rust debate? Like, we had teams seeded where they weren't supposed to be. You look at most of the Vegas lines, and those games went about the way people thought it would football-wise. Sans maybe Ohio State and Oregon, just because we know Ohio State got hot at the right time of last season with all that talent. So I would leave it at 12 at this point until we have further conference consolidation or anything like that. I thought 12 had the perfect balance and did a better job than I thought it would of including more teams in the conversation for longer in the season. What we got from from Arizona State in the Big 12, what we got from Boise State in the Group of 5, the tight race towards the end of the season in the ACC that landed with SMU getting a bid, all those things I thought were actually good for the larger version of the sport that feels left behind.
What is your hype level 10 being off the charts for Arch Manning to be in just full playing mode and the starter and the guy and no more what if, but like here he is and let's see what happens?
I'm probably like an 8. Like, I'm very excited. Don't get me wrong, but this is felt like, and you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, this feels like the closest thing we've had to Tebow mania since Tim Tebow was in college in terms of the hype machine. And the difference is with Tim, we at least got some of the fiery speeches, right? Tim's got that speech that's on the, gilded outside of the Florida locker room of you'll never see a team work this hard and do this and that. Like, Arch does not seem like that kind of guy. Like, we've all been trying to make Arch really interesting, and him and his camp and his family have done a great job of trying to just keep it about ball. So maybe once he gets out there and starts, we start to hear more from that. But as far as a prospect, he's certainly highly touted. He's an incredible athlete. We saw great flashes of what he might be able to do as a guy with a legitimate plus run ability on the field, as opposed to Quinn Ewers last season. But I still want to see it first. I think he's in a great environment for it. Now, Texas replacing a ton of important pieces on that offensive line, headlined by Kelvin Banks, used to hockey line-changing skill players. Sark's shown he's really good at that. But having one of the best play callers in the sport as the guy on the stick still gives me a lot of room to hope about what Arch is capable of in that environment in particular.
Mike, what are your thoughts? We are in Waco. We cover the Big 12. We cover the entire country. That's why we also have you on and others that we have on. But what are your thoughts about the Big 12? When you look at them and who they are, what do you think?
Fascinating conference. I talked to someone about this the other day. The Big 12 feels like what college football used to feel like, where you've got a bunch of teams more closely tied together that are going to play into some really interesting different styles and go out there and get it done, right? Kenny Dillingham's ASU bunch, who I saw he was reading the riot act to after practice last year, trying to stoke those fires after a season where they defied the odds. They were the underdogs last year, and Cam Skattebo and Sam Levitt and all these guys helped make a great season. But you've got guys like that on one side. You know, you've got Utah, who coming into it, everyone thought was going to be the favorite last year till the Cam Rising era, went down, unfortunately, injured the way it had become way too often last year. And now you look at the quarterback situation there, one that's really exciting. I just think between that, Baylor, you've got so many different teams with different identities. Texas Tech is going to be, I've called them like the Big 12's version of Ohio State last year, where you heard the subtext at Big 12 Media Day, right? Everyone was sort of not so subtly insinuating that one team here is dealing with a different bank account than most everybody else. And one team here put a lot more money under the wire before that July 1st date when revenue sharing went into play. And so for Joey McGuire and company, they're going to have a target on their back going into the conference this year. And listen, they bring back a veteran quarterback who's got to stay healthy and on the field long enough to see if they can pay the dividends off of that roster that they've poured richly into. So I just think there's a ton of fun storylines. Chris Kleiman's Kansas State team's always deadly consistent. Like, this conference has so many teams that I could see winning the whole thing out of this conference and being their representative for the playoffs. And that's what you want.
Would you have ever wanted to tackle Cam Skattebo?
No, not in any way, shape, or form. That guy, I was out at Giants training camp the other day, and he's certainly one, already a fan favorite there, kind of fits that Giants archetype of a tough-minded, hard-nosed running back. But you saw that performance in the college football playoff was one of the most impressive individual performances we've ever seen. And his personal growth, right? You heard Kenny Dillingham talk about how personal he took the challenge to improve his physical fitness and his body type, be a better leader over the course of last season. And to have that all come together in the kind of prolific year he did in All-American season was something that, definitely don't want to be on the other side of that train when it's coming through on the tracks.
Mike, the three of us have followed your career. I've followed your career quite a long time. We used to work at an ESPN affiliate when you first got on there. So I've listened to you a lot over the years. And I would be remiss if I let this go without maybe playing into some of your other strengths. I'd like to rapid fire a couple of questions to you right now. Okay, you mentioned Tim Tebow a second ago. I am a Florida State grad, so I don't care how nice he is. Yep. I will hate him forever. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, he could do an amazing, he could give me his kidney and I'd be mad it was his kidney. Is there a player like that you have as a sports fan? Because in our business, we do get to meet some of these people. I'm a Red Sox fan. I met Aaron Boone once. I was very rude to him, and I kind of regret it, but I don't.
I would say the entire University of Michigan is that. I kid you not. What you described about meeting a person. So when I was at Notre Dame, USC and Michigan are our big rivals. USC is the one with the history, and Michigan's the one with the proximity. You're on the road with Michigan drivers all the time. You see them all across the line in Niles when we were going to buy beer on Sundays. And that team always talked the most bleep, and they, in my mind, during our time, weren't that much better than us or worse than us. That's why the series was so close. But I'll be damned if post-grad, going back and getting to call games there, meeting friends that were both players and students at the University of Michigan, getting to go around Ann Arbor. It's a lovely college town that reminded me a lot of South Bend. It was incredibly charming. The people there were really nice. Obviously, the football teams had a ton of success. So my begrudging enjoyment of Ann Arbor and Michigan post-grad would have disgusted college-age me.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you very much, buddy. I'm glad you reached out. I don't know why I didn't see the message the first time. I'm glad I got a hold of you this morning. Thanks for your time.